This is Andi Purewal for Boxing News. I'm joined by Dave Coldwell over Zoom. Dave, it's good to see you. How are you? How's Brighton treating you?
Do you know what? It's lovely, a lovely place. I'm uh, I'm impressed with it.
Um, Dan Toward, your man returns 5-0, looking to become 6-0 now, Dave. Just the beginning chapter of his career. How pleased have you been with what you've seen so far and how he's taken to the pro ranks?
I'm over the moon. He's develops each fight, I feel. Um, and each week in the gym, he's just understanding more about himself, understanding more about scenarios and situations that take place in a ring. He's becoming more and more comfortable. And this for this fight, sparring he's consistently a good spar, as in he's always practicing what we're working on. He'll always think his way through. He's very, very fit. He's got a great engine on him, and he's always developing. But for this one, the understanding against, you know, preparing for an opponent that we've got, on fight night, his understanding has grown so much, and he's been fantastic. Really has. I'm really, really looking forward to the fight because it's a real fight. He's got a real opponent. Kakandi's a good kid, and he's here to win. He's here to win without a doubt. He sees it as a springboard live on Channel 5, um, on a big Wasserman show. He sees it as a springboard for his own career. Is not. I always say when you've got a good prospect, you can't really evaluate them until they step out of that journeyman just trying to survive mode opponents into a guy that expects to win. And in Kakandi, he's not here to give it a go. He expects to win. So we have a real fight.
When you have an opponent like that as well, Dave, um, it presents more opportunities for Dan in terms of him being able to showcase his own work.
100%. 100%. And that, I think that is where people have been impressed with him so far. But you're going to be more impressed with him in a fight where it's actually competitive. And the guy, like you said, is leaving gaps because he's throwing and he's trying to take you out. And you might be hitting him back, but he's still throwing and still trying to take you out. So you will see more of Dan Howard and what he's about in this fight because of those reasons. You know, it's very hard for a lot of prospects when they're fighting guys that are just, come to give it a go. As soon as the opponent figures out that they're too good for you, they just go into a shell and just into a cage, and trying to break them out of that cage and trying to find openings can be difficult. And then they walk onto silly shots, or just how things can work out. And it's after a few rounds of that, then people are kind of like, yeah, if the guy's not going anywhere, then it's a steady performance. But when somebody constantly is trying to take you out and walk you down and is relentless and throws hands, Kakande ticks all those boxes. So plus the fact that he's tough as well, I think for fans to watch the fight, they may see from their point of view, it may look as though this is, especially early doors, this is really competitive. And that's where you see how Dan's going to be as rounds go on. And, when you step into longer duration fights, you'll see how he handles that because, I don't want him just to rush off at the beginning of the fight, and then get rid of him inside four. Right, listen, if it happens, then it's great. But I wouldn't want him to go looking for try and match him pace for pace and just get rid of him in 4 rounds because then you're not actually learning anything to take yourself beyond. When you get into the longer distance, we're preparing him for championship fights and real hard fights going down the stretch. So I expect Candy to ask questions. I expect him to catch him. I expect him to have to react to things. Um, but at the same point of view, if he does what I've seen him consistently do in sparring over the last 12 months, then he might make it look a lot better than what it could potentially be.
Dave, I know obviously the top of that bill is headlined by Harlem Eubank, but when we talk about a different Eubank, Eubank Jr., the press tour with Conor-Benn last week caught the eyes of the entirety of the UK. From as an outsider's perspective looking in, what did you make of seeing how it all unfolded? Eggate, amongst others.
Well, I was working it for The Ring and Sky, their feed. Me, Sonny Edwards, and Andy Clark. And my eyes are fixed on Conor-Benn because on the face off, I'm expecting. I didn't say expecting, I said expecting. I'm expecting Connor to do something. I'm expecting him to shove him double-handed, and I'm looking at a little stage. I'm thinking, oh, security's ready to catch Chris if he stumbles backwards. And it was Chris, and from where we were, I thought we didn't see the egg. We just thought he smashed him with the left hand. I was like, whoa, shot, proper shot, because you see Eubank as calm, cool, everything's measured. And it just looked to us as though, because there was, he kept going, what? We thought that Connor had got under his skin, and that's the first time. It's like first time you've got to see anyone get under his skin. And we thought, he's lost it. Then Ben Shalom's were interviewing Ben, and he said it was an egg, and then we saw the different angle on the screen, and it was an egg. So that changes that because then it becomes premeditated, and that is usual Chris Eubank stuff, usual junior stuff. Everything's scripted, premeditated. He knows kind of what he's going to do. So yeah, he played a blind on his side. I thought it was out. I thought it was out of order because he touched his face. I don't believe that you should touch another man's face when you're doing a face to face, when you're doing a weigh-in, a press conference. You shouldn't. Even if he'd have shoved him with the egg in his hand in his chest, I think that'd have been cool. That'd have been sufficient, and it'd have got this, not quite, but it'd have got almost as the same sort of talk and column inches. But he did his job. He got under Conor-Benn's skin massively, and everybody's talking about it, and it's just made the fight even more must-see TV than what it was before.
How are you envisioning this fight, sorry, playing out, Dave? Like when I speak about it, I kind of say, for me, it comes down to how Junior makes weight at 160 still, and obviously, you've got the rehydration clause as well. How do you see what's the difference in this fight for you?
I'm quite torn, and I see that Eubank's having to come down in weight, but is he? Because majority of his fights have been 160. He's had when he went up to 168, it was like, oh, it's too small for 168. Majority of his fights are 160. So he's a 160 fighter, but when he makes 160, it's hard work for him. So I'm not saying he's a 168 fighter trying to get down to 160. I'm saying he's a big 160 that struggles to make 160. I from looking at him, looking at pictures of weigh-ins and things like that. The major factor for me is, he's so much bigger. He is bigger than Conor-Benn. Conor-Benn is coming up from welterweight, but his last two fights have been at light middleweight. So he's really, because his last two fights over the course of 2 years or whatever it is, have been at 154. So he's not been a welterweight for a couple of years. So he's coming up one division, not really two divisions. He's a career welterweight that's now had his last couple of fights and not been at welterweight for a couple of years. So now he's a light middleweight. Could he still do welterweight? Yeah. But he's not done it for a while. So his body's used to being a light middleweight, really. So he's coming up one division. But the physical size difference lies with Eubank, but age. He's 35 years old, struggles to make the weight, and the last time I thought he looked old. It's the first time I've looked at Eubank. I remember I was there, and I looked at him. I was like, wow, he actually looks old. And he was in against a guy that was hand picked for him to look good in that fight because it was Riyadh season, you know what I mean? And he's showcasing himself, wanting to get amongst all that. And I thought he looked old. And so for me, this fight's really even because Conor might be smaller, but he's definitely more explosive. He's definitely more has faster hands. Um, sharper movements. He showed in the past as well. Remember when I don't know if when he broke his jaw and then he came back. His boxing ability, moving around, was his feet was so much better because we was all like giving him props about how much he improved as an all round boxer. And you're thinking, so he's got the legs, the movement, and also Eubank. Yes, he's bigger, but Eubank hasn't got the engine that he used to have, and he hasn't got that toughness that he used to have, and he's not that good. He's not that good. He's not. That's why he's not gone. At the top. He's not succeeded at the top level yet because I don't think he's that good. Don't get me wrong. I don't think Connor's that good yet. He's not done anything. He's not done anything at a domestic level. Yeah, listen, he's beat Chris Algieri and people like that when they're way past it. In his monster phase where he was knocking everybody out. But prior and post, he's not suggested he's a huge puncher. He's a fast whipping puncher and very aggressive. But I just see it as it could go either way. I genuinely don't know. When it comes down to, you mentioned the rehydration clause. Again, I've heard contradictory things. I've heard in past where I think Eubank said that he don't put that much weight on. He walks around, around his fighting weight. So then £10 all right. Because it's £10 in the morning when they weigh in at about 8, 9 o'clock. If his management's smart, they've got it at 8 o'clock. Okay, we'll do the £10, but it's 8 o'clock in the morning. So he's still got the rest of the day to eat. If he's got a good nutritionist on board and they know how to fuel himself for the rest of the day. Because if they're weighing in at 8 o'clock, he's still got another 14 hours until they fight. That's a lot of time to refuel on top of the £10 that you've already fueled up. So listen, don't get me wrong, I'm not a fan of rehydration clauses when it's not for a title. I understand the IBF rules. It was £10, now it's just moved up to £12. I understand the IBF rules, but this isn't a world title fight, far from it. So I don't agree that there's a rehydration clause being put into it because if you're going to pick a fight voluntarily against a guy that's 2 weight divisions above you, what you normally box at, but really a weight division above, then don't then say, well, I'm picking a fight with you because I'm going to smash your face in, I'm this, I'm that, all that. But then only if you're a bit weaker than what you normally are, and the other people that have fought you haven't had that same advantage as what I'm going to have. That demeans your own win for me. But I understand why his management would want that because, we don't want to be giving away 2 weight. But it takes a little bit away from your win because you are literally saying, well, I can only beat you if you drained at the weight. Whereas you look at Crawford with Canelo, he's at the top end of the sport. They're stepping up. Massive, massive what they're doing. And they've turned around and said, weigh what you want. We don't care. Now, he's truly thinking, I can beat this big guy. I don't need no advantages. I don't need you to give me a leg up. If I'm good enough, I'm good enough and I'll beat him. That's if you're gonna pick a fight with somebody well above your weight class, then pick the fight and stick with the rules that are normally there. Do you know what I mean?
Dave, away from all things Eubank Jr-Benn, obviously this past weekend we had two controversial findings in two big fights, one in the UK, one over in America. Let's start off with a fight which took place in Ireland. Paddy Donovan, Lewis Crocker. The headbutts, the point deductions, and of course the stoppage from the shot after the bell. What did you make of it all? Did you feel like it was all correct? It was harsh. What was your take?
It's harsh, but it's one of those where First of all, Paddy Donovan was brilliant. Completely one-sided fight. I never expected a one-sided fight. Completely. And he didn't run. Didn't get on his bike. He's just right in front of him. His foot placement was excellent. I thought he was brilliant. And then he went and messed it all up. Lack of discipline, didn't hear, whatever. But whatever excuses you want to say, however harsh you felt it was, like I did feel as though it was harsh, he put himself in a position where he can't argue about being disqualified because he hit him after the bell, dropped him after the bell. I thought the headbutts were both fighters. I thought Crocker's posture, along with Donovan's, led to head clashes. We always get head clashes with Southpaw Orthodox. We always talk about that. Now, if you're both leaning in, you're going to get head bumps. And Donovan's style, even though usually we like him, we liken him as a bit of a rangy fighter, punch picker, he does lean over his front foot a little bit. And so therefore, when he comes in with little shots and they're working inside, he's going to start swaying in and out and bumping heads. So I thought both fighters could have been spoken to by the referee about the heads, but there was only one that was ever talked to about the heads. You did see a couple of little naughty forearms and elbows, but if you're going to get away with it, if the referee's not going to say anything, you get away with it. But when it comes to disqualification, at the time I thought it was harsh, but you've got to see it from all angles. And I get from John Pegg pointed out to me. He says, "Look, he says if the because I was thinking, give them 5 minutes to recover, because listen, fighters get dropped and they're all right to recover after mandatory 8 count, and they might win the round, win the end of the round, and come back. We've seen that loads of times. So he could have recovered. So give him 5 minutes." But then it's like John said, he said, well, if we'd have given him 5 minutes, then he'd have carried on, and then he'd have got knocked out, because it was one-sided, and then he'd have got knocked out, and if he'd have got hurt, then where's the sport at? And the referee, the board, and things like that. And it's like, and when he said that, I was like, oh, do you know what? It got me, because you can't really argue with that, because it could have happened. It could happen. So that's why I'm saying Donovan put himself in a position where he was open to get disqualified, and he did. The only thing that I will say is I felt the referee was too far away. I feel that when you hear the klaxon, especially it's a noisy arena, the crowd's going off on one, the ref should be right there on point. You see a lot where the ref will tell the fighters 10 seconds, or he'll say, "Stop at the bell, guys, stop at the bell." And I thought Marcus got that wrong. It was a bit far out. So yeah, controversial, but you can see both sides. You can see why. If I'm Team Crocker, I'm wanting that DQ. If you're, Andy Lee and Donovan, you're absolutely devastated, and you're like, no, this, so.
Away from the controversy in Belfast, controversy in New York, Gervonta Davis, Lamont Roach fought to a majority draw, Dave. The ninth round was not scored as a knockdown. The count started. There's been a lot of talk since. There's been appeals mentioned and all sorts. What's again your take and your thoughts on what happened in that fight?
That was strange. That was strange, wasn't it? I mean, he just decided he wanted a timeout. I'm Tank. I can do whatever I want. Hang on a minute. Come, remember when Adrian Broner used to get his dad to brush his hair? It's almost like come on, wipe my brow. It's just weird. Should have been a 10-8. Should have been a knockdown without a shadow. There's no excuse for that. Should have been. The only thing I will say is the ref was probably as surprised as everybody else watching it live and thinking, what's he doing? And it kind of threw him. Maybe that's the only excuse that I can think of that it threw him, and that's why he didn't count it as a knockdown. He's one of the good refs here as well. And I just think he was taken by surprise, and it kind of just went over his head, sort of thing. The interesting stuff is that he's excused Tank used the gel in his hair or something like that, in his braids. And then have you seen that the woman that did it has come
Yeah.
out and said, "Hang on a minute, you'd had the press conferences, you've made weight, you've had showers, or whatever you've done. That won't be an issue on fight night." So it's just strange.
With the fight itself, what did you make of it? And did you feel like a draw was fair? Did you sit on the side of Lamont Roach or did you sit on the side of Tank?
I can see that a draw's fair enough. I'm not going to sit there and say, "Oh, like, it was robbery and Roach pissed it." Or no, I thought it was very cagey first few rounds of the fight. Um, but yeah, it was a competitive fight, and Roach got better as the fight went along. I think he shocked Tank, um, but yeah, draw's probably about right. Which means really is that Roach got screwed with the knockdown. So it was close by. I, I just felt as though Tank looked bored. It looked like somebody that's just not asked about the sport anymore, or certainly not that night. Um, yeah, going through motions. I felt there was one point where I think he lands a shot, and then Roach cashed him with a good shot straight back. Like looks so it just knocks him off balance, made him take a couple of steps back, maybe rocked him, and he just looked. It's almost like he's shocked that you've thrown back at me, you've landed on me. It just looked like I don't know if he's spoiled, if he's bored, or if he's just not interested in the sport anymore. I don't know.
Do you think that the only thing that in Tank's case that he has to do now is go into that rematch because of everything that's happened and the controversy around it?
You would think so. You would think so. Yeah, I think they should have a rematch. Listen, Tank's not fighting any of the big names anytime soon, so that's as good a fight as any. And that's why I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed in Tank's career. Sounds stupid, you know. What is it? Three-time world champion, different weight divisions. Is a name in the sport and everything. But I just feel as though, when you look at his record and the quality of fighters that he's fought in terms of names and their stature, it's not enough. I thought after the Garcia fight, I thought that now he's going to explode. That was a high profile fight, great numbers, everything. Garcia's a big name. And I thought, exciting fashion, he's going to explode. But since then, not a lot. You know what I mean?
Dave, moving away from all things Tank, just a couple of things to get your thoughts on before we wrap this up. A fight which isn't happening now is Joe Joyce and Dillian White, but Filip name, he's been doing the rounds to step in. How difficult of a fight would you see that to be for Joe Joyce, and how would you see a potential Joyce-Hrgovic fight play out if that one was to be the chosen bout?
I think any fight for Joe Joyce right now is going to be a difficult fight, if you want me to be honest. He wants to carry on boxing, so any fight is going to be a difficult fight. But if he wants to carry on boxing, then Hrgovic stepping in for Dillian White is a tough. I don't know what Hrgovic has been doing in his life lately. If he's been training and stuff like that, if he's in the best form in best shape of his life or anything like that, I don't know. But although Hrgovic has always been one of these sleepers in the division, he's never really delivered on the potential of all the sparring stories and that Hrgovic that we've heard of. He's never really delivered on it on fight nights as such. No marquee wins as such. He's still at this stage of his career. I would make him favourite with Joyce. Um, yeah, it's a tough ask. By the way, Dillian White's finger, Jesus,
Yeah,
that shit.
was not a pretty sight that one,
No.
Dave. And then obviously, I'm sure you've seen everything with regards to TKO Boxing, the new venture coming in, the Boxing League, which they're looking to launch. Turkel Sheikh, Dana White, what that means for every other promoter who's been working with Turkel Sheikh, we have no idea as of yet. But just want to get your thoughts on what we've seen announced yesterday.
Mate, I don't know. I'm like, I want more information. Like details, please. Details, please. Listen, what Take Sheikh? Riyadh season, the whole lot of them have done over the last, what is it, 18 months, 2 years, is unbelievable. This sport is like, you've got mainstream people talking about, just normal public talking about boxing again. It's exciting. Everyone's talking about boxing again. Um, the relationships that they formed between Eddie Earn and Frank Warren. Oh my God. How that's just, they've brought them at the table. Now they seem to be getting on and everything's friendly. The teams I know get on really well. What he's done there as well, so we can get all our fights getting made domestically, we're getting names fighting each other and things like that, as well as on the world level. It's fantastic. It's unbelievable. Then you see, the fights he's got made, all the big names on the world scene and these massive, massive cards that getting put together. This seems like it's a completely different entity. And some of the language in that has got me going, what? I don't get that. Like, we're going to crush all the promoters. And I'm like, wait a minute. You literally work with them all. So is it them? Or are you talking about the ones that aren't part of this yet? PBC and people like that. There's not a lot left, I don't think. I don't know. I don't know what it meant. Listen, Dana White, I think it's exciting. I've kind of heard whisperings for ages. I know he's looked after. He's got Callum Walsh. He's had for a while. So I've kind of like been waiting for. Is it Callum Walsh, the Irish kid?
He is, yeah, but I didn't know if he was. I didn't know he was linked with Dana.
Yeah, I think he's part of Dana, being managed or looked after by Dana for quite a while. The Irish kid that's based in America.
Yeah,
So I know he's been talking about coming into boxing and a big for a while, and I've been looking forward to it because I'm not an MMA fan, but I love the UFC brand and what he's done with the UFC. Fantastic. However, what I don't think is so fantastic is how the MMA fighters talk about the financial side of things and how they're always looking to come across into boxing for the financial side of things. So, whether or not that changed, not because Turki Al-Sheikh is the man behind Dana, maybe so. I hope so, because otherwise there might be a few issues on it. And like I said, I don't know how this is going to map out because if Riyadh season and Queensbury Matchroom Boxer, everybody else, Top Rank, I think, are now involved. Everybody's working together. We've just got everybody working together. If this is definitely a separate entity going up against it, I don't know how it's going to work. So I just need more details before I can say whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. I think it's a good thing that they're encouraging. I saw an interview with Dana White where he said the days of worrying about an O and it being the end of a career is gone. I like that. I like that. I think there's too much pressure on keeping hold of an O, and promoters have been too long where as soon as you lose your O, they don't give a fuck about you. So I like that because you can learn from a fight where you've got beat and come back a better fighter. History has shown that. It's proven that. So many fighters, so many great fighters, come back better from learning. Okay, go back, study. Why did I lose? Decisions I made, things I didn't do right, things I need to improve. Right, let's go. Work, become a better fighter. And because the pressure of losing is kind of gone because you know that if it's a good fight, if you put on a good performance and you lose, you're still in that mix rather than being left on the shelf for a couple of years, then you're going to keep getting the big fights made. So that bit's good for the sport.
that's one from me, Dave. Before we wrap this up, we've got about 5 minutes left. Lee Wood, Anthony Cacace.
Oh,
Lee, I know somebody you know well, but a very difficult fight with a man who's also been on a tremendous run of form. Two heavy-handed guys can only see fireworks in that fight. Do you have a favourite?
I've got a favourite because I know him and I worked with him and he's a good friend of mine. Um, Listen, I love the story of Anthony Cacace. I remember years ago, Jordan Gill said to me that he years because it's before he came to me. He'd sparred with Cacace out in Ireland, and he just said he's so heavy-handed. He's very very strong. That was so. I've always followed his career because of what Jordan said. I mean, Jordan has been with me 7 years, and I think it's been we've not been working together for 2 years now. So you're talking like 10 years ago when Jordan sparred with him. So he's always been on my radar since then. Um, and it's nice to see what he's gone on to do with his career. Um, but he's a bit of a brute. And in Lee, although Lee's more of a pretty boy outside the ring, in the ring he's a brute, and he's as tough as they come. But it's a tough ask when you've been out for as long as what Lee has to come in. Um, he's stepping up a division as well, which will suit. To be fair, it'll suit him because featherweight I know is very very hard for him to make. And in the time lapse since, it's only right that he's stepping up. But all I can think of is that this fight's going to be brutal. It really is. It's going to be another one that Lee Wood's in where he's just like, oh my God, what a fight that was.
Dave, I appreciate your time as always. I'll leave you to enjoy the rest of your evening. Obviously, go catch up with the team. And thanks for speaking to me and Boxing News. Good luck tomorrow night.
Nice one, mate. See you later. Cheers.